Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Steel episode number 191 based on novel. So let's start. In that decisive battle, nearly half of the devil gods of the 72 devil pillars were injured, many of which were killed because of the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation acquired by us, the Night Temple. And nearly 100 of level 9 strong men from our side fell in that war. Both sides suffered a great loss, and the devils did not know the details of the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation, so they retreated. At the same time as the Dark Age was formed, it finally gave us a chance to recuperate. And just after the end of that war, among the hundreds of level 9 strong men that fell, we recovered more than 60 complete corpses. They are our ancestors, and they sacrificed their lives for the survival of human beings. If it were not for our ancestors' hard efforts, we would not be where we are today. At that time, the alliance had just been established and was far from stable. But similarly, there were also many powerful weapons and magical props handed down from ancient times. Among them, a scroll has been handed down at the Night Temple. At this point, Yang Haohan's mood and expression got even more intense as everyone was listening attentively. They knew that Yang Haohan's story had reached a critical moment. That scroll is called the Reincarnation Scroll. It sounds like a common name, but the spiritual magic recorded in that scroll is a forbidden spell and, in some cases, even a super forbidden spell. Forbidden magic scrolls were so rare that even Haochen had only seen them 2 or 3 times since he started his practice. As for the scroll of the super forbidden spell, he hadn't even heard of it. Just vaguely knew that the difference between a super forbidden spell and a forbidden spell was like the difference between a super artifact and a mere artifact. A super forbidden spell could even reverse the occupation of a war and move mountains to fill the sea. But then what Yang Haohan said shocked the whole audience. However, this super forbidden spell is the magic of the undead. As soon as this remark came out, Haochen almost exclaimed, and the whole audience was shocked. Dozens of people in this large conference room were representatives and could be said to be the most powerful people of the Temple Federation today, but when they heard the word, magic of the undead, they felt chills along their spines, and some people shivered with cold. The magic of the undead had left too many painful lessons in human history. When they heard of these 4 words, it was no surprise that their expression changed. This was also the reason why Haochen resisted so much when he discovered that the Tower of Eternal was an inheritance of the magic of the undead. Yang Haohan continued, predictably, the function of this super forbidden spell of the undead magic is to turn the dead into the undead. The reason why it is super forbidden is that when it turns the dead into the undead, it can reunite the souls of the dead who have been dead for no more than 12 hours to form the soul of a very strong undead that kept their knowledge and skills before death. The scope of this magic is 100 square meters. When Yang Haohan mentioned about bringing back the bodies of the strong, everyone at the scene already sensed something, but still some could not believe it yet. They all listened to Yang Haohan quietly. I know you don't understand, not only you, but also the leaders of the 6 temples at that time were equally reluctant to use this scroll. The magic of the undead has brought us too many painful memories. It can be said that had it not been for the catastrophe before the advent of the Dark Age, the devils might not have been able to force us to such an extent. Even the glorious Vatican at that time was destroyed by the devils. In a sense, the splendid Vatican is the predecessor of our Night Temple. Haochen subconsciously looked at Kia, and he noticed that members of the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group were also looking at him. Everyone looked a little strange, but they clearly supported Haochen firmly. There was a fierce debate at that time, Yang Haohan said. Some people supported the use of this scroll, so that our dead level 9 strong men will become the undead, and they will live in another form after death. As long as they are alive, it is equivalent to more than half of the strength lost by the Temple Alliance at that time. Even if the devils wage war against us again, it will be much easier for us to resist. There were also some people who believe that the use of Reincarnation Scroll is a blasphemy to their dead predecessors, and that their souls cannot rest in peace. Moreover, once they become undead, we cannot be sure that their characters and memories will remain the same. If there are any changes, won't mankind be caught in an absolute disaster? Even the newly formed foundation of the Temple Alliance cannot be preserved. There was a great conflict between these 2 opinions. In the end, the conflict came to an end, and what was finally decided was the distance from where the devil army retreated to. At that time, the devils did not retreat directly and completely, but stopped 500 miles from the alliance border. When the remaining devil gods of the 72 devil pillars retreated, their devil pillars still remained at the border. And it seemed like they would make a comeback any time. In that case, coupled with the support of the families of those who died, this super forbidden spell turned scroll was finally used. Many people subconsciously held their breath when they heard his. Although they could all guess what the result would be, they felt excited when they thought of the urgent situation at that time. It was a success. A total of 63 level 9th strong men turned into the spirits of the undead and condensed into their own souls of strong. Although their bodies were still broken, their strength was not weakened by the existence of the soul of the strong, and they also gained some power of the undead. The power of that super forbidden spell is evident. At that time, almost all of the 63 strong men could not accept this fact. They died fighting for mankind, and they were the real heroes. However, after they are transformed into undead, what are they? Fortunately, before using the scroll, the masters of the 6 temples at that time had reached an agreement to jointly declare their recognition by the Alliance. They gave all of them the title of Eternal Heroes of the Alliance and promised to open up a separate place for them to move into. They only had to help other Alliance fight against devils when that Alliance could not resist the strong devil's attack. After the persuasion of the masters of the 6 temples at that time and the families of these Eternal Heroes, they gradually accepted this reality. For their families, it was also a kind of happiness to be able to hear them and see them come back to life in the form of the undead. As a result, the 63 Eternal Heroes were placed by the Alliance in a secret location where they could rest. And this place is known as the inside of the Knight's Holy Mountain. The existence of Eternal Heroes was definitely the greatest secret of the Temple Alliance. Young Haochen revealed this secret because of the tremendous pressure from the Devil Clan to use the power of these Eternal Heroes. For a moment, the temple congressmen in the room looked at each other, and most of them felt that their brains couldn't process all this information properly. Just like the dispute at that time, with the help of the power of the undead, it was definitely a big deal for the Temple Federation. As Yang Haochen said before, if this matter were to be leaked out, then the blow to the Union would be unparalleled. If ordinary people knew that there was such a powerful undead force in the Union, they would not be able to understand. Fear would definitely occupy the vast majority, especially in the army, and a big strike would bound on the morale. After the arrangement of 63 Eternal Heroes, the masters of the 6 temples strictly forbid the spread of any relevant news. At the same time, it is stipulated that this secret can only be known by the masters of the 6 temples in the past. Moreover, until the critical moment of the life and death of the Alliance, we must not use the power of the Eternal Heroes and let them rest forever inside the Knight's Holy Mountain. Not long after, the army of devils finally retreated completely. The power of Eternal Heroes did not reappear on the battlefield ever again. But their existence has remained in the hearts of the 6 temple masters of all generations. Until now. After introduced these details, Yang Haochen returned to his position and turned his attention to Long Haochen. To his great relief, Long Haochen was still very calm after listening to his story, without excessive surprise or disgust. According to the rules, after Yang Haochen spoke, it should be Long Haochen, president of the Federation, to speak. However, before he could speak, Long Qianyin spoke first. I do not agree to use the power of the Eternal Heroes. As Long Qianyin spoke, a sealed divine knight stood up abruptly, looked at Yang Haochen with dissatisfaction, and said, I would like to emphasize that although Xingyu and I are also masters of the Night Temple, we do not know about this. Yang Haochen nodded and said, yes, although our Night Temple has special circumstances, and we can have multiple masters, this secret can only be handed down by word of mouth. And it's only told to one person from generation to generation. Long Qianyin snorted and said, Lao Yang, why are you so confused? They are lost undead creatures. They are our ancestors, and they have made great contributions to mankind and sacrificed their lives. There was a big problem with turning them into undead creatures, but how can we still borrow their power now? Have you thought about it? Once they go to war, the paper can't contain the fire, and it will be known by our soldiers. At that time, how can we explain to the federal soldiers? What would it be like if a group of powerful undead appeared on the battlefield? Moreover, after thousands of years, can you be sure that the mentality of these Eternal Heroes has not changed in such a long time? Once they leave their resting place and appear outside, they could completely go out of our control even if they are strong enough and have a lot of combat effectiveness. They are our ancestors. Will they follow the orders of their descendants? We might fail to make use of their strength and suffer counterattack instead. The Union is already in such a great danger that we can't take any more risk. After listening to Long Qianyin's words, many people were moved. Long Xingyu nodded multiple times and said, I agree with the Lord Long. We shouldn't be hasty. There are too many unpredictable dangers. And I also don't think we can easily use the power of eternal heroes. The statement of the two sealed divine knights immediately plunged everyone into contemplation. Long Qianyin and Long Xingyu, father and son, had high status in the Knight Temple and had great influences. Although Yang Haohan used to be the leader of the Temple Alliance, he sat at the Alliance headquarters after all, while the Knight Temple Yulong side had always been commanded by Long Qianyin and his son. With their words, members of other temples would take it into full consideration. Li Jingxi said, "I think this is feasible." Another limitation of the original reincarnation scroll was that the strong undead who were reincarnated by the forbidden spell recorded on the reincarnation scroll could only survive for 1,000 years. Today, more than 6,000 years have passed. The masters of each generation of the 6 temples will actually greet these eternal heroes. We have received news from them that eternal heroes prolong the lives of their undead by letting themselves sleep. However, about 40 years ago, when they last heard the news, they said that their time was running out. In another 50 years at the most, they will be asleep forever. They will never wake up again. At that time, they suggested that if the Alliance needed it, they would be willing to pay the last bit of residual heat for the Alliance before falling asleep forever. In other words, even if we do not use the power of the eternal heroes, they will live for 10 years at most. Therefore, I agree with the suggestion of Lord Yang. Eternal heroes can be trusted. As for how to use their power, I believe that we can always find a way to cover up our little secret. There are not many of them. I believe that these eternal heroes can play a role in turning things around on the battlefield. I still feel skeptical, Ling Xiao said, who, as the master of the priest temple, hated the undead the most. I agree with Lao Yang, but I don't approve of using their power, he said. The undead are the undead. Think about how the undead survive. They need the power of darkness to deal with corpses, darkness, and all the aura of evil. Although these eternal heroes are our ancestors and have made great contributions to mankind, they have been dead for thousands of years. What the two lords said was correct, that if something goes wrong, it is likely to be irrevocable for the Union. Listening to Ling Xiao, Yang Haohan frowned. He knew that his proposal was bound to cause controversy, but he did not expect that the controversy would be so fierce. Ling Xiao's opposition was still in his expectation, but the strong opposition of Long Qianyin and Long Xingyu was beyond his expectation. Originally, he thought that even if Long Qianyin and his son did not support it, they would not object the idea so much. But who would have thought that they were the first to speak out against it? The opinions of Long Qianyin and Long Xingyu were very important because they were relatives of Long Haochen, and their attitude was likely to affect Long Haochen, who was the president of the Federation. Perhaps, the influence of Long Haochen in the whole Union could not be compared with the veteran masters of the 6 temples. However, in today's meeting, he could at least affect all the members of the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group. In the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group, in addition to Long Haochen being the president of the Federation, there were 3 vice-chairmen, Kia, Chen Yinga, and Wang Yuan. They might not enjoy great prestige, but if the vote method was adopted finally, the group would have nearly 1/3 of all the votes. Therefore, it was very important whether Long Haochen supported this proposal or not. Yang Haoyu, the Holy Knight of Starry Sky, suddenly opened his mouth. With a slight cough, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. As the strongest man in the alliance, his attitude was also very important. Whether this is right or wrong, good or bad, none of us can come to a conclusion at the moment. Negotiation is a good thing. However, I must remind you that this is no longer the time of the Temple Alliance, but the Temple Federation. Now that it is under discussion, aren't you going a little too far without listening to what Chairman has to say? Instead of directly supporting Yang Haohan or expressing his opinion, Yang Haoyu maintained Long Haochen's dignity as president of the Federation. In fact, he didn't understand what happened to Long Haochen today. Long Haochen had always been smart and always able to control the situation. Today's meeting was so important. As the president of the Federation, how could he be so silent and just listen to everyone quarreling? After listening to Yang Haoyu's words, Yang Haohan nodded and said, "That's what I mean. Let's listen to the chairman's opinion first." Long Qianyin did not react. In his mind, Long Haochen was also his grandson, and he really opposed Yang Haohan's proposal from the bottom of his heart, otherwise he would not have refuted it immediately regardless of their close relationship. Long Xingyu frowned slightly, but it didn't show what he was actually thinking. And at the same time, everyone's eyes focused on Long Haochen. Long Haochen smiled calmly and said, "Now that a new federation has been established, all issue will eventually be decided by everyone. The final vote will represent the wishes of the vast majority of the people. However, before more people declare their position and vote, I would like to tell you a story. Lord Yang, do you have the name of the maker of the reincarnation scroll you just mentioned? Yang Haochen was stupefied for a moment. He didn't expect Long Haochen to ask such a question. He subconsciously shook his head and said, "It's not recorded in the classics, but it just says that this reincarnation scroll may have been made by the necromancer who caused the destruction of life on the mainland. But I don't know why it survived. It could also be the booty gained when the brilliant Vatican defeated him." Long Haochen nodded and said, "So, who knows the name of this necromancer?" Long Qianyin frowned slightly and said, "Chairman, there seems to be no point in asking this. Moreover, the original necromancers were before the advent of the Dark Age. More than 6,500 years ago. There are few records about him, but it is only certain that there is such a powerful and evil necromancer. No more details about his specific situation." Long Haochen said, "So no one knows? Then I'll tell you." As he spoke, he stood up slowly, and as his body flashed a little, he came to the front from behind the table. A group of strong men that sat on the rostrum were surprised to find that it was at that moment that Long Haochen was shuttling through space. Visually, it seemed like he was going straight through the table. But in fact, it was similar to the ability to transfer in an instant. His strength had improved a lot. Yang Haoyu could not help but marveled secretly inside. Moreover, he realized that he could not see through the extent of Long Haochen's cultivation. Standing in front of the rostrum, Long Haochen said, "The necromancer who made the reincarnation scroll is Electrolux. He was the one who brought great disasters to our mankind before the advent of the Dark Age. He gave himself a nickname, the Deathly Hallows, the Scourge of the Undead, Electrolux. If it were not for his existence, the disaster he had caused to mankind wouldn't have happened. Perhaps, in the initial fight against the devils, we would not have suffered such a catastrophe, nor would we have the dark ages of more than 6,000 years. However, necromancers are originally human beings. I've never heard of any other creature directly progressing a necromancer, right? So why did he lay his hands on human beings and cause the destruction of their lives?" Ling Xiao, the master of the priest temple, said subconsciously, "This kind of necromancer must be evil by nature and aims to destroy the world." Long Haochen smiled. "Lord Ling, that is a wrong guess. If I tell you here that the necromancer, who had brought disaster to mankind, has a light attribute himself and all his undead magic is also based on the light attribute, will you believe it? That's not possible." Long Qianyin, Long Xingyu, Ling Xiao, and even brothers Yang Haoyu and Yang Haohan said in unison. They were all representatives of the light domain. Long Haochen shook his head and said, "No. I'm telling the truth. Because this necromancer used to be not only a light wizard, but also a son of light like me." As soon as this remark came out, the whole audience was in an uproar. For a moment, everyone looked at Long Haochen as if they were looking at a lunatic. Only the people of Light Dawn Demon Hunter Group remained calm. Long Qianyin stood up and said angrily, "Long Haochen, do you know what you are talking about? Are you defending the necromancer and even fabricate this impossible reason?" Long Haochen looked at Long Qianyin with burning eyes and refused to give way. "Lord Long, please don't be so loud and sit down first. Since I am the president of the Federation, I hope that no one will interrupt me from now on before I finish. Otherwise, I will ask that person to get out of here." Long Qianyin was stupefied for a moment as he did not expect Long Haochen to talk to him like this. He got angry and said, "Well, I would like to see how you would ask me to get out. How dare you give me a demand?" The light in Long Haochen's eyes suddenly blossomed, and then his right hand attacked Long Qianyin's body from far away. Long Haochen attacking Long Qianyin at the meeting was such an inconceivable scene, but it just happened. Long Qianyin shouted angrily and punched Long Haochen, while his face was flushed with anger. He was a veteran of the Night Temple, and his grandson embarrassed him in front of everyone. However, a scene that shocked all the strong people there appeared once again. Long Haochen's body suddenly turned into a touch of gold, and the soft golden light looked very gentle. His empty palm flashed a golden palm print in the air. When the angry punch of Long Qianyin approached near under the flow of gold, Long Qianyin's body vibrated slightly. Then, his body was covered by the golden light from Long Haochen's hand. The next moment, Long Qianyin's body disappeared within that golden light. One move. Just one move. Domain for me? Li Shengxi's deep cry shocked everyone. What was that about? Everyone here knew it all too well. Level 9 of rank 5. Their federal president's practice level had reached level 9 of rank 5. In the temple not long ago, Long Haochen showed only the strength of level 9 of rank 2 or 3. However, in only such a short period of 2 months, his practice level already made breakthroughs so many times in a row. For many of the top level 9 strong men, that would take a lifetime effort to achieve. For a moment, some changes took place when the federal executives looked at Long Haochen's face. Whether in the Temple Federation or in the Devil Clan, the one with the greatest strength was often the one who had the largest voice. Haochen, you. Long Xingyu was also very shocked and angry. However, when he saw Long Haochen's serious eyes, he could not go on, and he sat there in silence. Long Haochen looked at Yang Haohan and said, according to federal law, at the federal meeting, if a congressman were to make disrespectful remarks to the federal president could temporarily remove that congressman for the time being. Am I right? Yang Haohan subconsciously nodded. In fact, he was still shocked by Long Haochen's action. Long Haochen smiled calmly and said, Lord Long is a little tired. I just asked him to have a rest. There is no need to worry. Obviously, no one would worry about Long Haochen's attack on Long Qianyin. After all, he was his grandfather. However, what Long Haochen had just done made the strong people of the 6 temples felt respect for him. The Temple Federation had just been established, and in the minds of many people, they still thought of it as how it used to be. Long Haochen and his Light Dawn Demon Hunter group had never given orders in the Union before. Therefore, many people did not recognize this federal president. They just knew that this group of hunters was very strong. However, in the previous Temple Alliance, the majority mainly followed the orders of their respective temples. However, Long Haochen's behavior just now was undoubtedly telling them that now he was the leader of the Temple Federation. Moreover, he also used his strength to show everyone what he was capable of. In the fight with Long Qianyin, he did not use the sealed Divine Throne of Eternity and Creation, but he still made Long Qianyin lost all his combat effectiveness and got transported away. This strength was obviously no longer inferior to the Holy Knight of Starry Sky, Yang Haoyu, plus the increase in the number 1 sealed Divine Throne in history. It was only then that people were shocked to find that their federal president had reached such a high level. This discovery made them gradually forget Long Haochen's age and looked at him with more respect. And as of where Long Qianyin went, he was just right outside the conference room. However, now the Night Temple Lord's face no longer had traces of anger. Instead, there was a faint smile. This little kid. I'll get even with you later. Hee hee. As he spoke, the formidable sealed Divine Knight of Control and Restraint walked away calmly. Those congressmen that stared blankly did not know that these 2 grandfather and grandchild had already agreed on making this meeting a way for Long Haochen to establish his name of authority. Even Long Xingyu didn't know. They had proved that they were quite talented at acting. Otherwise, even if Long Haochen was strong enough, he might not be able to succeed with just one blow. And with his nature, how could he get angry at his grandfather? The large conference room gradually quieted down, and Long Haochen said coldly, the story I am telling you is very meaningful to your vote today. Again, I hope that no one will interrupt me in the course of my story. Otherwise, I will also ask that person to get out. You all heard me correctly. The Deathly Hallows, the scourge of the undead, Electrolux, was the son of light. The son of light, just like me. In fact, on the other hand, you will believe a little more. Necromancers are indeed powerful, but they are only a branch of wizards. Can a talented ordinary necromancer bring such a great disaster to mankind? The answer is obviously no. The reason Electrolux was able to do it was that he had enough talent and savvy. At the same time, there was enough hatred that support him to do so. He was a fallen son of light, but why did he sink? After learning the whole story, I had to clear his name. At the beginning, the natural disaster of the undead came from ourselves, and it was us who created that disaster for ourselves. There was no doubt that Long Haochen's story was very attractive. When he said this, he could not help but sigh secretly. Electrolux, you saved my life and passed on your power to me and Kia. You have awakened me at the last minute. In that case, I will correct your name today. Although your mind is no longer there, I still hope you can leave this world with peace. Long Haochen and Kia both accepted the great kindness of Electrolux, no matter whether he recognized Electrolux in his heart or not. However, the favor could not be changed, not to mention that Electrolux's final confession deeply moved them. Now it was time for Long Haochen to rectify his name. Everyone must be wondering why I know this. I have to start from the beginning. When we, the Light Dawn Demon Hunter Group, were still generals, we received a mission to explore the fair howling cave found by the Devil clan. That task was regarded as a wrong order after we accepted it, which also caused an arise of circumstances at the Demon Hunter's task tower. However, we did complete that task. Long Haochen was now the president of the Federation, and there was no need to hide any more things, not to mention that the matter of the Tower of Eternity had been perfectly resolved. He was not afraid to spit it out. At present, Long Haochen told how he discovered the Tower of Eternity in Fair Howling Cave, became the heir of the Tower of Eternity, and what he experienced in the Tower of Eternity. Then he told of how he gradually discovered the true image of the Tower of Eternity, and how he finally died in the Devil's clan, but was taken to the Tower of Eternity by Kia for resurrection. It could be said that this had always been his biggest secret, and now it was not only to correct the name of Electrolux, but also to explain to all the senior federal officials how their hunting group had such a strength at a young age. This is the story of Electrolux. It was because he endured too much pain and the hatred of extermination that he embarked on that road of no return. His mistake is unforgivable. But we have to ask, is this necromancer really evil by nature? Long Haochen's story was wonderful and touching. Especially when they heard that Kia carried him behind her back and Long Haochen had to go through life and death with his companions of the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group inside the Tower of Eternity, and he was finally brought back to life. That deeply moved everyone. Originally, many people thought that Long Haochen was able to have what he had now because he was the Son of Light. However, after they listened to his whole story, they realized how much suffering he had endured in the process of his strength improvement. And why he had been missing inside the Devil clan for so long. Long Xingyu's fists were clenched so hard they turned bluish-white, and his fingernails were deeply pierced into the palm of his hand. Tears flew down his face uncontrollably. Long Haochen saw his father in tears, and there was a strange look in his eyes. At the same time, there seemed to be a touch of relief. It was just that no one noticed this slight change in his look. That's the end of my story. This is my own story. As president of the Federation, I also think that out of a responsible attitude towards the Union, I should tell this secret to everyone. With regard to the Eternal Heroes, my attitude is that they can be invited to fight and exert their final power for the Union. I believe that our ancestors have been waiting for this day for a long time. However, for safety's sake, I will first take a trip to Night's Holy Mountain to confirm their condition. Only when they are really effective and sane will they be allowed to fight in this war. They are the real heroes of the League. In my opinion, this matter should not be hidden from the public, but should be widely publicized. Sometimes our ideas are too conservative. What about the undead? They are the heroes of the Union. Our heroes have paid the price of their lives for the Union. Why do they remain anonymous even though they still contribute to the Union after their death? And do you not even dare to let the people they protect know of their existence? I believe that as long as we do a good job in propaganda, the public will understand. Long Haochen's words shocked many people and they realized the strength of the federal president for the first time. No one interrupted until he had finished his last sentence. Everyone was thinking deeply about what he had said, and even the most stubborn person there, the Lord of the Priest Temple, Ling Xiao, changed his expression. Long Haochen flashed back to his seat and sat down. What I just said is my personal opinion. Now we can put our heads together. We'll vote later. The meeting is still presided over by Yang Jianzhu. After nodding to Long Haochen, Yang Haohan said, I am deeply shocked by the chairman's story. There is such a situation behind the chairman's powerful strength that we didn't know about. The chairman and every member of Light Dawn Demon Hunter Group are heroes of the Union. We should salute the heroes. As he spoke, he stood up and gave a standard chivalry gesture to Long Haochen and all the members of Light Dawn Demon Hunter Group. Other congressmen also got up one after another and did the same as Yang Haohan. Long Haochen hurriedly stood up with his friends to return the salute. On the day we became hunters, we decided to throw our lives and shed blood for the Union. I never thought I could end well in the end. Just like the elder Chen Zitang, he must have thought of the outcome of the war a long time ago. I believe that although the two hunting groups have perished, they have absolutely no regrets. They are the real heroes. I propose to observe a minute of silence for the Devil Gods Hunter Group and Proud Ninth Heaven Hunter Group. The whole audience was silent. Grief rose unconsciously in everyone's heart. However, in this grief, passionate blood was boiling. Many people realized that after listening to Long Haochen's story, their inner depression had been replaced by a strong sense of war. The fear of fighting the war with the Devil's army almost all disappeared. The moment of silence ended. Yang Haochen continued with the previous topic. Chairman, there is something I must explain to you. The character of those who are eternal heroes will be affected to some extent because they became the undead. I don't agree with you to go in person, in case of any danger. Long Haochen waved his hand and said, there will be no danger. I will go with Kia. Kia's domain of purification is the nemesis of all undead creatures. Therefore, I can assure you that even if our eternal heroes do deteriorate and intend to do something harmful to the Union, we, the Light Dawn Demon Hunter Group, will solve this problem ourselves. His words were by no means an exaggeration. No matter how powerful the eternal heroes were, they could not be compared with all the armies of undead creatures in Haoyu's plane. Kia's power caused shock and awe to all the undead creatures there, not to mention the 63 eternal heroes. If they were to riot, Kia could take care of them with her purifying lotus. Yang Haochen said, in that case, we will discuss this matter later. With regard to the chairman's proposal to correct the name of the eternal heroes, we should also consider it in the long term. If it is really to be implemented, then there must be adequate publicity preparations. Long Haochen nodded his head and said, I agree. Li Xingxi said, I don't think so. The chairman's proposal is very meaningful, and the chairman's own story is even more persuasive. Even the scourge of the undead, Electrolux, which once caused disaster to our mankind, has its merits as a necromancer, not to mention our eternal heroes. If we can record the deeds of the chairman and publicize them widely, it will be much more acceptable to throw out the story of eternal heroes after this publicity. Long Haochen was stupefied, while Qiu Yonghao, the former master of the warrior temple, immediately agreed. Lord Li, this is a good idea. The Union has just been established, and if we can portray the chairman and his wife as national idols, it will certainly be of great benefit to us against the devils. It can also enhance the charisma of the chairman. The image of the chairman and vice-chairman Kia also have great potential to become idols. Let's do it. After listening to Qiu Yonghao's analysis, all the lords presented looked with bright eyes. Chen Yinga immediately said, I agree. The story of the chairman and vice-chairman Kia is a legend. It should be publicized. What's more, this is a better chance for us in fighting the devils. Long Haochen did not expect to put out the glory for his name, but only to correct the name of the eternal heroes. He wanted to oppose, but he had been drowned out by all the voices of approval. The meeting was finally voted unanimously, and Long Haochen personally invited the eternal heroes to come out and rectify their names at the same time. The premise of all this was to publicize the couple Long Haochen and Kia. Li Xingxi, the master of the Magic Temple, took over the task. The special wizard of the Magic Temple was responsible for directly making a magic short film for publicity. Long Haochen and Kia also had to play together in that short film. This was only the first meeting. More important issues were put on the table at the next day's meeting. Where would the devils attack? Was it like the full-scale attack of the previous Holy War, or a small attack? If it was just a small attack, then where would it be at? This issue was of vital importance to Temple Federation. Even if it was a head-on encounter, the possibility of victory of the Temple Federation was still small. If they were caught unprepared by the Devil Clan and the Devils invaded into the Temple Federation, then it was inevitable that lives would be destroyed. With the destructive power of the Devil Army, the Union was in great danger. On this issue, Long Haochen believed that the Devils were most likely to directly attack Yulongguan, where the Night Temple located at, because the main target of the God of Devils was him. However, he was not absolutely sure either. If the God of Devils were to attack another fortress and concentrate the federal forces at Yulongguan, it would be tantamount to put the federal people in front of the Devil Army. Federal executives discussed it for 2 days, but it was still not decided. However, a series of federal orders were passed on to the other 5 temples, including the magic short films made for Long Haochen and Kia. With the existence of the Tower of Eternity, coupled with the control of the tower's owner and the cooperation of the Light Dawn Demon Hunter Group and the 12 Sacred Saints, they almost completely recreated the original scene, although the shooting time was too short and a little rough. However, all the shocking and important situations were still completely portrayed, especially because more than a dozen of wizards from the Magic Temple carried out the most elaborate post-production in the shortest time possible to better shape this expensive magic image. Long Haochen and Kia did not expect that soon their story had moved the whole Union and they really became national idols, just like Qiu Yonghao said. Holy City. At dusk, the sky gradually darkened. After the end of the 10-year Derby Temple, the Holy City gradually quieted down. As the capital and rear area of the Temple Federation, the prosperity here had not changed. It was dark, which also meant that people who had been busy all day had finished their work and could have a rest. And the nightlife of the holy city had always been very rich. But today there was a strange scene in the holy city. Just like at the Derby Temple not long ago, a large number of people poured toward the direction of the Holy League trial ground. "Hey, Brother John, what are you doing in such a hurry at night? Brother, didn't you see the notice posted by the federal headquarters? Starting tonight, magical film will be shown for 10 consecutive days at the Holy League trial ground, which is said to have been performed by the federal president and vice president themselves." Magic film? What is that? It is the images and sounds recorded and preserved by magic. The Federation is so serious, it should be interesting. Come on, let's go and have a look at the hustle and bustle. Similar conversations continued to spread in the streets of the holy city, coupled with the power of the notice, and before it was completely dark, the city was surrounded by people. 10 giant magic screens that had been removed from the Derby Temple had already been installed here. At this time the magic screens were emitting a dazzling brilliance. The screens would soon play magic images. What will the magic image be? The president and vice president of the Federation act in person? Are they learning from each other? But why would the Federation use magic to record it and show it to us? Almost every citizen had the same questions on their mind. However, there were no news about it. Curiosity drove them to watch this magic film, and they were waiting quietly under the magic screen. The sky was completely dark, and the dazzling brilliance on the magic screens became even more obvious, even from the distant roof. A mighty voice sounded. "The magic film will be played immediately. However, before broadcasting, we need to give you a simple explanation. The magic video is recorded by the chairman, vice chairman, and members of the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group. Post-production by the Magic Temple. The whole process completely recreates the story that happened after the struggle between Chairman Long Haochen and Vice Chairman Kia with the Devil Clan. Therefore, before we begin their story, we need to briefly introduce the background of the story. For the background of the story, Chairman Long Haochen was killed by the God of Devils, and the Vice Chairman Kia and other members of Light Dawn Demon Hunter fled the capital with his body. That's where our story begins. I believe everyone feels very strange right now. Chairman Long Haochen's heart has been broken and he died in the Star Devil Tower. So how come he later became our chairman? So, please take a look at the following film. You will get the answer from it. After the establishment of the Union, it will become more democratic, and each and every one of you is the master of the Union, so you have the power to know about the experience of the first president of our new Union. This is also the reason for the production of this film. In the name of the federal government, all the processes reproduced in the video are real events that have happened in real life. This video will end here.